Hello, it's me. It's a little cold, but it's okay. I'm wearing a warm green shirt. How are you? I hope you're good. I'm good. I'm good, I think. Yeah, so I'm out in the woods. Um, Actually standing on an old road that was never paved. That's called Rue du Cimetière, Road of the Cemetery. I've taken this road before at night, actually. Um, this road goes directly from one village to another, and it's an old carting path for the dead. All of the people from all of the tiny villages here, they put their dead on carts and they pushed them, or they were drawn by horses, and they took them to the cemetery after the church. Although I think the church service was actually next to the cemetery. I don't have exactly the history down perfect, but and then I showed you at the beginning. It was kind of a clear cut, not a total clear cut, but they did cut a bunch of stuff. There's the forest behind me is not a tree farm, but over there was, and it was all pine. As a matter of fact, the camera is being balanced on a big stack. It's like that high of dead pine. Which is okay. We need wood. Um, Wood grows. Wood. Wood is probably one of the most renewable things we ever do, except for when we take too much. So yeah, back behind me, those are non-managed, it's wild. It's more like a forest. On the other side of this is where those pines were. And there's a hunting stand up there. I was gonna do there's a plane, sorry. I was gonna do this video. Oh, I'll go away, plane. How about I just look at you for a second or two while I wait for the plane to go away. Now maybe you can hear that bird behind me, which is pretty cool. What was he gonna say? Oh, he's gonna go up into the tree graveyard. All the trees are, but there's a hunting stand there because it's hunting season, and I don't really want to get shot. If I wanted to get shot, I'd go to America, but I'm in a weird mood right now. I apologize. I'm a little cold. Had like so much stress in my life lately. Stress, kind of. No, that's not the right way of putting it. I've had lots of really big stressful things I've had to try to figure out, and my tendency to try to figure them all out at once kind of led me to sort of, feel like it was all too stressful. Simultaneously, though, like some of the best stuff has happened to me in the last few weeks. Of particular note always is my man who, God, when I go to sleep, oftentimes I go to sleep before him because I wake up at like 5:30 or 6 now after the time change. And so I'll go to bed, and then he'll come to bed, when he's ready to go to bed. And then I wake up, and he's like kissing me, and he tells me, "I love you, Reed. You're perfect." Like, I always wake up really good after that. So yeah, there's like beautiful, amazing things, kind of getting through work, but some of the things are all human strife things, I guess. I'm not so good at humans, really. I'm good with humans, I guess, but I'm really good with trees. Really good with them. Actually, that was what I was going to talk about this week. I never talk about theory on these videos, really. They're kind of super personal, but I'm going to talk a little bit about all right. So there's this writer, Giorgio Agamben. He's Italian. He's brilliant, and he he explains how, all right, well, let's back up. You know that thing like the politics is personal or the personal is political or whatever? You know, we kind of say that to sort of, that kind of came out of feminism that was like, you know, hey, this is personal to me and therefore that's political. And politics affects the personal. But one thing we never really kind of think about is how the political realm has kind of colonized everything so that we have no choice for them to be personal. And I say we have no choice, but we do. We do. This is kind of relevant because the American election has been happening all week. I spent a total of 23 minutes on Facebook as of yesterday, 25 minutes today. Not paying attention to it. Not paying attention to it, not just because I don't live in the United States, but also because this shit doesn't matter. Now, I'm going to say this doesn't matter. Of course it matters. It matters who's like in charge or whatever. But it shouldn't matter. It should not matter, you know, these people who, you know, with their political regimes, their political ideologies. And I mean both sides, you know. Though, you know, Trump is obviously the really bad. You got to say that really, you know. I will say it is weird he never started a war. You know, if Biden wins, we're going to go to war. But, you know, things will be nice. But each one has their, like, you know, set of political ideologies in it. And, you know, the president in the United States determines who is going to be, well, no, I'm sorry, what the political aesthetic is going to be. So the last 4 years of Trump has all been fear on one side, but on the other side, all that, like, oh, hey, things are better now. You know, and if Biden wins, which he probably will, you know, then it's going to be like fear on one side and, hey, everything's better now. Again, you know, it's kind of the same thing, this weird dichotomy. And of course, on the side that I like, the side that you like, I'm sure none of you are really big Trump people, because I'm not. You know, we feel like, okay, this is better. I can breathe now. Everything's going to be good. I won. My life won. My side won. My views won. You know. But not really. You know, sure, it changes the big kind of structural things, and it changes the aesthetic. Like, who are you going to have to hear? Whose voice are you going to be hearing the next, like, 4 years? I'm sure there's lots of people who are just like, oh my God, I can't deal with Trump anymore. I don't want to hear him. You know, of course, you could have just not listened. And there's a statement that says, you know, only the privileged don't care about politics. The idea that, you know, if you're not political, you must be privileged. You know, it doesn't affect you. That's a good idea, but it's not true. Do you know who cares most about who's going to be the president? Not the poor. It doesn't affect them. It's the bankers and the CEOs. It's all of the owners of all of the corporations. The ones with not just privilege, but power. They're the ones for whom this matters because, you know, Biden or Trump in the United States or anywhere else, you know, with who's going to be in charge, they're the ones who determine how the world is going to work for them. And the rest of it is just kind of trickled down to, you know, common people. I mean, if you think about it, this is not really all that different from, you know, what the Middle Ages was. You know, the decisions of the lords, of course, would affect kind of the aesthetic of the everyday life for people. But most people don't think about the Lord, didn't think about the Lord. Or the king, or whatever. But what has changed in the modern era, according to Agamben, is this colonization of our lives. So that, you know, we look at it now from like, well, of course, you know, you got to be political because this affects me personally. But we never question, wait, why does this affect me personally? Why do I have to inhabit, why does this political ideology, this political regime, whether it's left and right, or if it's, you know, who's in charge, who's not in charge, why does that have to inhabit me? You know, what really does it affect me? Now, if I were rich, I'd be like, oh yeah, Biden's going to help me, you know, because Biden's total neoliberal, so he's going to help, you know, for international trade. lots and lots and lots of corporations were really upset with Trump because Trump was closing down all of the international borders to capital. So if Biden wins, they're gonna be really happy. That's why they fund Biden, by the way. It's not small people who are making these elections happen. It's the big ones, the big corporations. And on the other side, like they're the people like the more the small business owners, especially, people like woodcutters, factory owners, more like kind of the manual labor. Those people are like, oh no, we want Trump because he's going to protect our industry so that, we don't have to compete with China. Those people care. Those people have a reason to care. Those people are privileged. The rest of us are inhabited by this thing because of that process that Agamben said. Basically that there is no place now for us to escape the political, to escape the civitas, the polis. The politics comes from the Greek word polis, which means city. In ancient Greece, there was a concept. There was political life, and then there was animal life. Animal life is what I'm doing right now. I'm out in the middle of the woods, just being. This is not a political act. This is a human act. However, we could kind of come up with a way of explaining how politics affects what I'm doing right now. And politics affects how many trees get cut, where these trees are going, etc. Who owns the land and who doesn't. That's the colonization of the polis, of the city, of this thing, onto the natural world. And Agamben's point is that the animal life, Zoe, as it was called, excuse me, I smoked too much, that's not cool. Agamben's point was that, there's less and less and less places for us to escape. And from one perspective, we could say, well, yeah, okay, so we can't escape it, so then we need to, we need to fight. We need to, be really political and change this. But there's the other possibility, the one that the longer I live, the more I've seen, the more countries I've been in, the more people I've talked to, the more things I've read, the more everyday people I've met, the more people with radically different experiences from me, whose politics are different from me. And then the more I'm out in places like this, the more I realize there's another way, which is just we decolonize ourselves from the polis. We start rejecting the importance of the political aesthetic onto our everyday lives. My morning when I wake up, nothing to do with Trump or Biden. My love has nothing to do with either of them. You could say, well, being gay is a political thing. Being gay is a political thing for the exact same reason that everything else is a political thing, because politics now determines everything. But outside of that, my politics are not why I love. Politics are not me. Politics are not him, my lover. Politics are not my friends. Politics are not these trees. That is animal life, Zoe, as it was as it were in Agamben. I don't know how we get there. But one thing Agamben kind of points out, a lot of this is related to the hegemonic power of empire, as it were. Hegemonic basically means that it's everywhere and it determines how we act because we're afraid of what will happen if we don't act that way. And as empire just sort of starts losing its grip because it can't handle all of these crises, the crises it's making, we have more and more and more chances to escape. This is a little bit more than you might be familiar with Hakim Bey. He came up with the idea of temporary autonomous zones. This is something else. This is not temporary. This is becoming autonomous. You know, autonomy and sovereignty are very related. Sovereignty is something I should talk about in another video because, you know, it's very related to Druidry. You know, it was the Druids in almost all of the Celtic lands that, you know, granted sovereignty to the king. Well, it was actually the land that granted sovereignty through the Druids, and, you know. And sovereignty is related to autonomy insofar that when we choose to become sovereign, which is choose to be related to the land, to gain our sovereignty from that instead of, you know, citizenship, identity, wealth, you know, all of those things that we, you know, that's what gives us power. That's, you know, gives us our own sovereignty. No, you know, sovereignty comes from right there and right there. Not even from me, not from ourselves, but from the land. You know, like Peter Gray in Apocalyptic Witchcraft said that, you know, the land is, or actually, I think it was Rewilding Witchcraft, one of the two, where he said that the witch is created by the land to speak for it. That's sovereignty. And in that, one also needs autonomy, that you become free to make your decisions based upon that sovereignty, not from yourself, but from the land. When we get there, I don't know yet. There's a woman coming down the path, so I think we're going to end this now, but I love you all. I'll talk to you again very soon. Bye.